New words and examples.
Account. An account with a bank is an arrangement to keep one's money there.
After I paid for the new car, my bank account was nearly empty.
Architect. An architect is a person who designs buildings.
The plans for building the new home were drawn by a famous architect.
Conceal. To conceal something means to hide it.
You should conceal your money so no one can take it from you.
Crime. A crime is something bad that a person does that can be punished by law.
Police quickly arrived at the scene of the crime.
Deed. A deed is a certificate that proves that someone owns something.
When she bought the car, she was given a deed to show the car was hers.
Gratitude. Gratitude is a feeling of being thankful.
The kids showed Aunt Tess much gratitude for visiting them.
Habitat. A habitat is the natural home of animals or plants.
Frogs are often found in a wet habitat, such as near a lake, river, or pond.
Intervene. To intervene means to help stop a problem between two people or groups.
The students argued until the teacher intervened.
Landmark. A landmark is an object that helps people find or remember a location.
The tall tree was used as a landmark for people to find the road to the inn.
Legal. If something is legal, it is related to the law or allowed by the law.
It was not legal for him to drive until he was 18 years old.
Memorable. If something is memorable, then it is remembered for a special reason.
The party was memorable. People were still talking about it years later.
Oblige. To oblige someone means to require them to do something.
If I wanted to have playtime, I was obliged to clean my room once a week.
Offense. An offense is an action that breaks the law and requires punishment.
He was put in jail for 2 days for the offense.
Proclaim. To proclaim something means to say it in public.
The army general proclaimed that the war was won.
Rally. A rally is a large public meeting in order to support something.
The school had a rally in the gym to support the basketball team.
Resolve. To resolve something means to find a solution.
She resolved the problem with her children by giving them both a toy.
Resource. Resources are a person or country's money and materials that they can use.
The poor man didn't have the resources to feed himself.
Sentence. A sentence is punishment given to someone who didn't follow the law.
The sentence for stealing a car is much worse than for stealing candy.
Volunteer. To volunteer means to offer to do something for free.
Many people volunteered to help the adults learn to read.
Witness. A witness is someone who sees or hears a crime or accident happen.
The woman was the only witness of the horrible crime.
The architect's plan. An architect wanted to build a new office building. He selected some land that seemed perfect. He planned to cut down the trees to make room for the building. But there was a problem. A big problem. The land was actually the habitat of several types of birds. Some nature lovers were very upset with the architect. First, they held a rally and told others about the issue. Then they decided to take legal action because the architect didn't respect the animals' rights. To resolve the problem, they asked a judge to intervene. The judge could not call any witnesses for the nature lovers, so he first asked the architect to tell his side of the story. "Why are you going to destroy the bird's habitat?" the judge asked. The architect replied, "I have the deed to the land. I want to make a great building there. As you may know, all my buildings become memorable landmarks." Then one of the nature lovers spoke.
We believe that there is no reason to destroy all the trees. We just want to protect the birds.
Then the judge made his decision. "I proclaim that the office building should be built," he said. "It is not a crime to remove those trees.
I cannot give you a sentence for any offenses, but I feel obliged to make one request. I will only allow you to use half of the land. The other half will remain free so the birds have a place to live.
The nature lovers could not conceal their gratitude. All of the people cheered. The architect said, "I have an idea. I will volunteer my time and efforts to design a new type of building. It will provide bushes on the roof where birds can live. There are enough resources in my company's bank account to create the best building ever made." The architect did exactly as he promised. He built this new type of building, which was loved by everyone.
New words and examples.
A while. If you do something a while, you do it for a short time.
Wait here a while, and I'll bring some tea.
Cyberspace. Cyberspace is the imaginary place of the Internet where activities occur.
I didn't receive your email. It probably got lost in cyberspace.
Edit. To edit means to correct a piece of writing so that it is suitable to be published.
She asked her brother to edit her paper before she submitted it to her teacher.
Essay. An essay is a short piece of writing on a certain subject.
She had to write a 2-page essay for her English class.
Evaluate. To evaluate something means to study it so a decision can be made.
Joe and Ken evaluated the plan and agreed that it would work.
Faint. To faint means to go unconscious and fall down.
Carol fainted because she hadn't eaten in over a day.
Global. If something is global, it happens all around the world.
Pollution is a global problem.
Gymnasium. A gymnasium is a building with equipment that you can use to get exercise.
When I go to the gymnasium, I use the treadmill for 20 minutes.
Highlight. To highlight something means to mark it with a color so that it is easy to see.
I read my vocabulary list and highlighted the most difficult words.
Ignorant. If someone is ignorant about something, they have no knowledge about it.
I'm a bit ignorant about his theories. Can you explain them to me?
Index. An index is a list of words at the end of a book that gives information.
If you look in the index, you'll find the right page number.
Lecture. A lecture is a long educational speech.
His lecture on world hunger was very informative.
Moral. A moral is a message at the end of a story that teaches you something.
At the end of the story, Mother explained the moral to the children.
Operate. To operate means to work or function.
I'm sorry, but the trains are not operating today.
Private. If something is private, it is only used by one person or group.
Don't look at my diary. It's private.
Recent. When something is recent, it happened a short time ago.
I did not know what caused his recent behavior.
Resolution. A resolution is a personal decision.
At New Year, I made a list of resolutions to help me have a better year.
Semester. A semester is a portion of a school year.
Jack is in his second semester of college.
Typewritten. If something is typewritten, it is written on a computer or typewriter.
This is an important formal project and must be typewritten.
Weird. When something is weird, it is very strange.
My best friend's dad is a bit weird.
The magic computer. I had a difficult geography project to finish by the end of the semester. My teacher wanted it to be typewritten, so I went to the school computer room. But when I got there, all the computers were turned off. Apparently there was a recent problem and technicians were fixing it. I knew of some private study rooms downstairs. They were small and dark and the computers were very old, but I had no choice. At least the computers were operating correctly. I typed and highlighted the assignment's title, Evaluate the Government's Response to Global Warming. But I didn't know what to write in my essay. Finally, I decided to find a book to help me. I went to the library, checked the book indexes, and eventually found a useful book. Then I returned to the computer. When I looked at the screen, I saw something so weird that I nearly fainted. The essay was complete. Had somebody in cyberspace written it? I didn't know, but I was very happy. I printed it out and handed it in. I got an A. After that, I used the computer for all my assignments. I'd type the title, wait a while, and the computer would do it. Every assignment was perfect. I never had to edit anything. I stopped paying attention to my teacher's lectures and spent my extra time in the gymnasium, and my grades got better and better. A month later, I was walking into class when my friend said, "Are you prepared for the test?" "What test?" I asked. "The geography test," he replied. "I hope you studied. It's worth 70% of our final grade." I failed the test, of course. I was completely ignorant about the subject. After that, I made a resolution never to use the magic computer again. The moral of this story is that if you cheat at school, you won't learn anything.
New words and examples.
Beak. A beak is the hard, curved part of a bird's mouth.
The bird used her beak to dig a small hole in the ground.
Damp. If something is damp, it is somewhat wet.
My hair is still damp from my shower.
Disapprove. To disapprove of something is to think that it is wrong.
Alex disapproved of his son's behavior.
Accept. You use except to talk about the only thing that a statement does not apply to.
Everyone had fun on the trip except Jim, who felt ill the whole time.
Flight. A flight is an act of flying, often in an airplane.
The airplane made a flight around the world.
Fond. When someone is fond of something, they like it.
I am very fond of chocolate cake.
Immoral. When something or someone is immoral, they are evil or do bad things.
Stealing money from one's mother is an immoral act.
Ivy. Ivy is a plant with long vines that grows upward, typically on walls.
The walls of the castle are covered with ivy.
Moan. To moan is to make a low sound when feeling pain or sadness.
The sick man moaned from his bed.
Oblivious. If someone is oblivious of something, they are unaware of it.
I was late to school because I was oblivious of the time.
Perish. To perish means to die, usually because of bad conditions or bad events.
Many people perish in wars.
Pit. A pit is a big hole in the ground.
Michael fell into the pit and needed some help to get out.
Rim. The rim is the outside edge of a round thing, like a cup or bottle.
I put my lips to the rim of the bottle and took a drink.
Roost. A roost is a place where birds can land and rest or sleep.
The family of doves made a roost at the top of the tree.
Slippery. If something is slippery, it is wet or smooth and causes people to slip.
The repairman fell down on the floor because it was too slippery.
Soar. To soar means to fly high in the air.
As the sun rose, 2 eagles soared through the sky.
Trivial. If something is trivial, it is not important or meaningful.
Television is trivial, but learning to read is very important.
Typical. If something is typical, it is normal for a certain type of thing.
Barking is typical behavior for dogs.
Utterly. If something is utterly away, it is completely that way.
When the sun was blocked by the moon, it was utterly dark outside.
Weep. To weep means to cry.
My sister told me the dramatic movie would make me weep. The tricky fox. There was a fox that lived in the forest. Fox loved to play mean tricks on the other animals. One day, he used the sharp rim of a bottle to dig a pit in the ground. He hid in a tree until Rabbit came to the pit's edge. Then he jumped out and pushed Rabbit into the pit. Fox laughed and ran away. The angry rabbit climbed out and told the other animals what happened. The others said, "That is typical behavior for Fox. He does mean things all the time. Sometimes he is completely immoral. We all disapprove of his actions, so we should teach him a lesson. Tomorrow, we'll push Fox into that pit." The next day, all of the animals hid near the pit and waited for Fox. Fox was oblivious to the hidden animals. He walked up to the pit to see if Rabbit was still trapped. Just then, the other animals ran up to Fox and pushed him in. All the animals laughed and cheered, except Fox, of course. Fox couldn't get out. The walls of the pit were covered in damp ivy. It was too slippery for him to climb out. He was utterly helpless. He moaned and began to weep. At last he saw Eagle watching him from her roost. He yelled, "Eagle, please help me! If I don't get out of here, I will perish!" Eagle said, "You may think your tricks are trivial, but you hurt others when you do mean things. I'll help you if you promise to be nice." Fox said, "I promise." Eagle began her flight to the bottom of the pit. She picked up Fox with her beak and soared out of the pit. She dropped Fox safely on the ground. Fox thanked Eagle and kept his promise. He was nice to the other animals. The animals even became fond of Fox, and the forest was a happy place.
New words and examples.
Admonish. To admonish someone is to tell them you disapprove of their behavior.
The teacher admonished Mark because he was chewing gum in class.
Audible. If something is audible, then it is able to be heard.
The sound of the drums was audible from miles away.
Awesome. If something or someone is awesome, they are impressive or frightening.
The huge military plane was an awesome sight.
Beware. To beware means to be careful of something or someone that is dangerous.
You should beware of driving fast on wet roads.
Brag. To brag means to talk of one's abilities or achievements in a proud way.
He had strong muscles and bragged about it to the entire class.
Conscious. If someone is conscious of something, then they are aware of it.
The new student was conscious of the other students staring at her.
Disagree. To disagree with someone means to have a different opinion from them.
The lawyers disagreed about the best way to settle the case.
Echo. To echo means that a sound repeats itself because it bounced off an object.
The child yelled over the canyon, and the wall echoed the sound.
Eventual. If something is eventual, it will happen at the end of a series of events.
The constant training and planning led the team to an eventual victory.
Hint. A hint is information that suggests something will happen or is true.
I quietly passed on a hint to my sister about the test.
Idiot. An idiot is a person who is not smart or who has done something silly.
Because he got lost in the forest, the man felt like an idiot.
Immense. If something is immense, it is very large.
An immense amount of money was needed to buy such a large boat.
Indirect. If something is indirect, then it is not the easiest or straightest way.
He chose to take the most indirect route to the coast.
Option. An option is a choice between two or more things.
The children were given the option of 3 houses to pick from.
Pastime. A pastime is an activity done for fun that you do often.
In the U.S., baseball is considered the national pastime.
Perfect. If something is perfect, then it is without any mistakes.
She got all the questions right, so her score was perfect.
Pinpoint. To pinpoint something means to locate it exactly.
The navigation system in my car is able to pinpoint my exact location.
Switch. To switch means to change something to something else.
Mom switched the TV station from the news to her favorite show.
Thorough. If something or someone is thorough, then they are complete in every way.
Tina did a thorough job of cleaning the stains out of the carpet.
Torment. To torment someone means to cause them to suffer on purpose.
She tormented her little brother by taking his favorite toy.
The young man and the old man. A proud young man was looking for a new pastime. He heard about people hiking in the national parks and decided to try it for himself. As he started his stroll, an old man walked up to him. "Don't go this way," the old man said. "Beware. The paths are not clear. It's easy to become lost." But the young man disagreed with the old man and bragged that he had a perfect understanding of the park. "I studied maps of this area," he told him. "I believe I have a thorough knowledge of these trails. I won't become lost." The old man listened to the young man and then admonished him for his pride. "I have walked these trails my entire life," he said. "If you think you will be safe, then go ahead." The young man ignored the old man and started along the trail. Whenever he had to choose between an easy or difficult route, he always chose the more difficult option. In addition, he was not conscious of which direction he was going. After a while, he decided to return home. Because his course through the wilderness was so indirect, he had no idea where he was. He looked at his map, but could not pinpoint his location. He walked one path after another, but soon realized he was lost. The sun was going down, and sudden strong winds gave a hint that it might rain. Immense clouds filled the sky. Awesome sounds of thunder were audible from all directions. It echoed off the mountains. The thought of the eventual storm tormented the young man. He hurried in one direction, but soon switched out of confusion. Luckily, it led him out of the park. When he arrived home, he knew that he had acted like an idiot. He realized he was lucky to be alive. He decided to listen to people with more experience than himself.
New words and examples.
Animate. When something is animate, it has life.
Rocks and machines are not animate things.
Classify. To classify things is to put them into groups based on their type.
The biologist classified the plant as a completely new species.
Concede. To concede is to admit that something is true against your wish.
The student conceded that he had cheated on the test.
Concept. A concept is an idea about something.
I learned some concepts of molecules before working in the science lab.
Construct. To construct something means to make or build it.
The men used wood and metal to construct a house.
Decade. A decade is a period of 10 years.
She celebrated her 3 decades of work with the company.
Diagram. A diagram is a simple drawing that explains what something is or how it works.
By following the diagram, I was able to put the desk together.
Ferry. A ferry is a boat that carries passengers over short distances.
The ferry took the people across the lake.
Handy. If something is handy, it is useful.
An eraser is handy if you make a lot of mistakes.
Isolate. To isolate is to separate one person or thing from a group.
The teacher isolated the bad child from the class before talking with her.
Longing. A longing is a strong feeling of wanting.
Since he skipped breakfast, he had a longing for food all morning.
Numerous. If something is numerous, there are many of those things.
It was hard to drive fast since there were numerous holes in the road.
Particle. A particle is a very small piece of something.
The bottles of wine were covered in a layer of dust particles.
Plea. A plea is a request that is urgent or emotional.
The poor hungry man made a plea for food.
Refrain. To refrain from something is to avoid doing it.
The doctor asked Mary to refrain from eating fast food as part of her diet.
Review. A review of something is a formal inspection of it by people in authority.
The government ordered a careful review of the economic situation.
Sophisticated. If someone is sophisticated, they know many things about the world.
Jake is one of the most sophisticated persons I've ever met.
Surrender. To surrender something is to give it up.
The thief surrendered the money to the police when he was caught.
Upright. If something is upright, it is standing up straight.
Meerkats can't walk like humans, but they can stand upright.
Worthwhile. If something is worthwhile, it is important or useful.
On his visit to Canada, he realized studying English was worthwhile. Anton's great discovery. Anton van Leeuwenhoek was a Dutch cloth merchant. His life began to change after he got his first microscope in 1653. It was a very simple microscope. It had a lens and an upright stand. It could make small things look large. It was handy for looking closely at cloth. Soon, Anton felt a longing to build a more powerful microscope. He dreamed of using it to make an important scientific discovery. He wanted to become famous. 3 decades later, he did. For many years, Anton experimented with microscopes and lenses. Eventually, he constructed a very powerful microscope. If he had sold the concept to others, it would have made him very rich. However, Anton refrained from surrendering his secret to anyone. Instead, he wanted to use it to become famous. So he used his secret microscope to study the natural world. One day he was looking at saliva from his mouth with the microscope. In the saliva, he saw numerous tiny particles. Some of them were moving. He thought that the particles were tiny organisms. So he isolated them from each other and studied each one carefully. Then he classified them into different categories. Some were round, others were long and had tails. All were alive. Anton was so excited. He knew he could become famous now. He was the first person to see these tiny organisms. So he drew diagrams of the organisms and sent them to a group of scientists in London. The scientists were sophisticated men who did not believe tiny animate organisms could live in our mouths. Anton made a plea for them to come to Holland to see the organisms with their own eyes. The men took a ferry to Holland and met Anton. They performed a careful review of his work, and they conceded that he had made a worthwhile discovery. Anton van Leeuwenhoek had discovered bacteria. After decades of hard work, he had become famous.
New words and examples.
Alongside. If something is alongside another thing, then it is next to it.
We work alongside each other in the office.
Appetite. Your appetite is your hunger for food.
Tom has a big appetite. He eats all the time.
Assist. To assist someone is to help them.
Andrew assisted me with my homework.
Breeze. A breeze is a soft wind.
The breeze caused the leaves to fall off the tree.
Defy. To defy someone is to work against them or refuse to do what they say.
The students got into trouble for defying their teacher's rules.
Display. To display something is to show it, especially by putting it in a certain place.
The museum displayed many wonderful paintings.
Efficient. If something or someone is efficient, they do not waste energy.
My car is very efficient. I rarely have to buy gas.
Feeble. If someone is feeble, they are small or weak.
The boy was too feeble to carry the object very far.
Forgive. To forgive someone is to stop being angry with them.
Sandra forgave Peter after he said he was sorry.
Lively. If someone is lively, they have a lot of energy.
Jennifer is very lively. She's always running and playing.
Majestic. If something is majestic, it is large and beautiful.
The rich people lived in a big, majestic house.
Nor. You use nor to connect two negative ideas.
I eat neither apples nor oranges. I don't like either one.
outraged. If someone is outraged, they are very angry.
My father was outraged when he saw that I'd crashed his car.
Pessimistic. If someone is pessimistic, they believe that the worst will happen.
John is pessimistic. He always thinks something bad will happen.
Rumor. A rumor is something people talk about even though it may not be true.
Kevin was spreading rumors about Marcia to everyone.
Slap. To slap someone means to hit them with the palm of the hand.
Out of anger, Helen slapped Eunice on the face.
Smash. To smash something is to break it into many small pieces.
Jacob smashed the window with a rock.
Subject. To subject someone to something means to force them to do or experience it.
The officers subjected everyone to a careful search before they left the plane.
Wage. A wage is the money that a person gets for doing a job.
The wages I receive from my job are really great.
Whereas. You use whereas to show how two things are different.
My sister loves horror movies, whereas I prefer comedies.
Growing to be great. When George was just a boy, he didn't have any parents. The rumor was that they died in a car accident. Many bad things could have happened to George, but he was lucky. He was sent to live alongside other children without parents. There were kind people to assist George and help him go forward with his life. However, he was a pessimistic and mean little boy. George was often outraged. He told mean rumors about the other kids. He smashed furniture and even slapped other boys. He defied anyone who tried to help him, and soon it was difficult for them to forgive him. But George did display a love for one thing. He loved to play baseball. Whereas he was lazy in school and liked neither the subjects nor the teachers, he was lively and happy when he played baseball. One of George's teachers noticed his talent. He began to work with the boy. At first, they only talked about baseball. The teacher watched George play. He was a very efficient hitter. He almost never missed the ball. The teacher thought that George looked majestic when he played. When George hit the ball, it flew through the breeze as if it would never come down. In time, they began to talk about other things. They talked about George's family and his dreams for the future. They developed a very good relationship. As George got older, he began to grow. His appetite was huge. He ate and ate. He got stronger. Soon the other boys and even the teachers looked small and feeble next to him. Everyone thought that this heralded the start of a great baseball career. When George got his first job as a baseball player, he gave most of his wages to the people who had helped him as a boy. He hoped that other children would also find a way to live happy, successful lives.
New words and examples.
Absolute. If something is absolute, it is total or complete.
My presentation was an absolute disaster. It was terrible.
Alas. Alas is a word that people say when something bad happens.
I looked everywhere for my purse, but alas, I couldn't find it.
Attentive. If you are attentive, you are careful and you pay attention.
He is a good student because he is attentive to every detail on his work.
Cape. A cape is a large cloth that covers one's back and is tied around the neck.
The superhero wore a long red cape.
Envision. To envision something means to imagine that it may happen.
I can envision my mom's face when I give her this present.
Evenly. When something happens evenly, it happens at the same rate or level.
The food was handed out evenly among the hungry people.
Folk. Folk are common or average people.
I've invited all the folks from our street to a gathering at my place.
Melt. To melt means to turn from a solid to a liquid.
The snowman that we made yesterday melted in the sun.
Patch. A patch is a part of a surface that is different in appearance from the rest.
There was one small patch of grass in the sand-covered desert.
Pleasure. Pleasure is a feeling of happiness.
The student smiled with pleasure when she received the prize.
Pop. A pop is a short, loud sound.
I heard a loud pop. Then my computer screen shattered.
Pudding. A pudding is a sweet dessert.
Would you like some chocolate pudding and coffee for dessert?
Rail. A rail is a horizontal bar made of metal or wood.
The cat was sitting on the rail of the fence.
Recipe. A recipe is a set of instructions to make food.
The apple cake that you made is really tasty. Can I have the recipe, please?
Roll. A role is the normal purpose or function of a person or thing.
My role at work is to check the quality of the products.
Soak. To soak something means to make it very wet.
You need to soak these beans overnight before you cook them.
Spark. A spark is a small, quick flash of fire.
As he welded the two pieces of metal together, sparks flew everywhere.
Spirit. A spirit is someone's feelings and personality, but not a physical body part.
He has a very outgoing spirit. He can make friends with anyone.
Suit. A suit is a set of clothes. It usually includes a jacket with pants or a skirt.
I wore my new suit on my date with Melissa. Jack Frost and the Pudding. Every winter, a magical boy with a wild spirit named Jack Frost arrives in town. He wears a white cape, and his role is to cover everything with frost and ice. But Jack Frost also gets pleasure from playing tricks on common folks. One dark winter evening, he was sitting on the rail of a fence near a river, pointing at some trees. When he did so, there was a pop, and the trees were evenly covered in frost. Then old Tom Muggins came along the path. He was carrying a basket of ingredients for his wife's cake recipe. "I'll have some fun with him," said Jack Frost. He pointed, and suddenly there was a patch of ice on the path. Poor Tom slipped and fell into the river. The bags of flour, fruit, and sugar fell open and got wet. A couple of eggs broke, and a stick of butter shrank in the water. Tom gathered the ingredients and climbed out of the river. The food made an absolute mess of the path.
"Alas,"
he cried,
"there'll be no cake for me."
Jack Frost laughed at poor Tom because his nice suit got soaked as well. "Are you cold?" he said. "Don't worry, I'll make you warm." He pointed at the mess in Tom's basket. Suddenly there was a spark. What was left of the food caught fire. Jack Frost ran off laughing. Poor Tom sat by the fire. He could only envision how angry his wife would be. He wished he had been more attentive and noticed that Jack was around. Suddenly, a pleasant smell came from the basket. Tom looked inside. The butter was melting, and the eggs were starting to cook. Even the fruit began to simmer. Soon there was a fat, brown pudding in the basket. Tom tasted it. It was delicious. He happily took it home for dessert. Although Jack Frost had tried to make Tom's life difficult, Jack had actually made Tom a wonderful pudding.
New words and examples.
Access. Access is the right to enter or use something.
The manager was the only person with access to the password.
Conduct. Conduct is the way that someone acts.
She was punished for her bad conduct.
Constant. When an event or action is constant, it happens a lot or all the time.
The television at home is in constant use.
Crack. A crack is a narrow space between the parts of something broken.
The old window was covered with cracks.
Device. A device is an object or a machine.
A thermometer is a device that tells temperature.
Enclose. To enclose something is to contain it.
The cows in the field were enclosed by a fence.
Grip. To grip something is to hold it very tightly.
I was scared, so I gripped my older sister's hand.
Halt. To halt is to stop moving.
The criminal halted when he saw the police coming.
Impending. If something is impending, it is going to happen soon.
The student was nervous about his impending test.
Influence. To influence someone or something is to have an effect over them.
My friend influenced my decision to attend Terrence University.
Law. A law is a rule made by the legislative body.
The students learned about different laws during social studies class.
Mode. A mode is a setting or condition on a machine.
Mother turned the TV to quiet mode while she talked on the phone.
Perspire. To perspire means to sweat.
I usually perspire a lot when I'm at practice.
Replace. To replace something is to put it in the place of something else.
I replaced the tire on my car because it was flat.
Snap. To snap something means to break it suddenly, which causes a loud noise.
I took the stick and snapped it with my hands.
Sly. If a person or animal is sly, they are sneaky or good at tricking people.
The sly fox stole the eggs from the nest.
Tend. To tend to do something is to be likely to do it or to do it often.
My mom tends to buy me the perfect gift each Christmas.
Valid. When something is valid, it is correct or based on good reasoning.
The expert's opinion on the subject was more valid than others.
Version. A version is an account of something that differs slightly from the original.
She read the student's British version of the Chinese fairy tale.
Whatsoever. You use whatsoever after a noun to emphasize that there is nothing of that thing.
The boy had no idea whatsoever how to solve the story problem. Janie and the music player. Janie had constant thoughts about getting a music player. One day, she was late to class. She hurried down the hall, but halted when she saw a backpack on the floor. She looked inside and found nothing but some books. She reached inside the bag and felt a small object at the bottom. It was a music player enclosed in a black case. Janie tended to be honest, and she had no valid reason to take the device. However, her desire for the player influenced her decision. Janie was being sly. She put the device into her own backpack. When she arrived at class, she gave her teacher the bag. "I found this," she said. Ms. Johnson asked, "Does this backpack belong to anyone?" A girl named Linda claimed the bag. Linda looked inside and yelled, "My music player is missing. Janie took it." Janie answered, "I did not." Linda responded, "You were the only one that had access to it. If your version of the story is true, you let Miss Johnson check your bag." Janie started to perspire as she realized the impending trouble she was in. She gripped her bag tightly. Miss Johnson took the bag from Janie. Inside, she found the player. "Janie, I never expected this kind of conduct from you," she said. "You've always been such a good student." Ms. Johnson gave Linda the player. Linda said, "Miss Johnson, look!" There was a crack along one side. She turned it to the on mode, but it wouldn't work. It must have snapped while Janie was holding on to the bag so tightly. Ms. Johnson called Janie's parents. They were very upset. "Stealing is illegal. You have no respect for the law whatsoever," they said. "We bought you a music player, but we're giving it to Linda. It will replace the one you broke." In the end, Janie's bad behavior left her with nothing at all.